Discover the incredible secret to life-changing wealth, 3 hidden steps revealed just for you. Jake stared at the worn-down journal lying in the attic dust, a relic from a past dusty yet a beacon of hope. 3 hidden steps to wealth, it proclaimed in faded ink, pulling him in like a moth to a flame. In Maplewood, where aromatic fried chicken filled the air and the sound of baseballs cracking echoed through the neighborhoods, dreams felt as fragile as the autumn leaves that crunched beneath his feet. Jake, a 38-year-old mechanic, had spent his life toiling away in his father's auto shop, which had long been the backbone of their tight-knit community. Despite his tireless dedication, worry crept in like a shadow, darkening the cheerful chatter of kids playing outside. He could hear the whispers from neighbors. "Dreamer," they said, shaking their heads, casting doubt upon his ambition. Bills piled high on the kitchen table, and his father's health was declining. With 2 young children looking up at him with innocent eyes, the weight of the world pressed down hard. Each night, he sank into bed, staring at the ceiling, heart racing with uncertainty. Was he enough? Could he carve out a brighter future? Everything changed when Brad Steele rolled into town like a storm cloud, with promises wrapped in sleek suits and a smirk that reeked of insincerity. Maplewood's heartbeat quickened with anxiety, as the townsfolk felt their history, each local diner, each shop teeter on the edge of oblivion. The man intended to buy them all up, turning their beloved community into a market playground for the rich. Jake, like a cork bobbing in turbulent waters, felt himself pulled toward the center of this brewing storm point one evening. As he lingered in the attic, pulling apart decades of memory and dust, he stumbled onto the journal. The allure of its words ignited a spark inside him. Hope surged anew. Eager to implement those steps, he dove in headfirst, filled with an excitement he hadn't felt in years. But as swift as his enthusiasm had ignited, each attempt fell flat. A failed business venture. A botched repair that lost him a loyal customer. Doubt slithered back in, filling his chest with a crushing weight. Before he could even catch his breath, the town held a public meeting to discuss Brad Steele's looming plans. Tension crackled in the air, and anger bubbled at the surface, a force waiting to explode. As Jake stood among the growing crowd, a fire ignited within him. He stepped forward, heart pounding, locking eyes with the mogul who towered like a giant. "You don't own our dreams," he shouted, feeling the surge of righteous indignation rip at his heart, turning frustration into something fierce and potent. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As murmurs spread through the crowd, something shifted. Neighbors gathered, wide-eyed and full of admiration. They were echoing hope. Was this the beginning of a fight worth having? Jake could feel the collective heartbeat of Maplewood. It surged through him like adrenaline, pushing aside the sense of defeat. Together, they could reclaim their town and rewrite the narrative of prosperity. But as Jake took a deep breath, staring down the mogul's arrogance, the stakes had never been so high. Would his integrity hold as they faced the harsh realities of their dreams? Would hope overcome adversity? The questions hummed in the air, heavy and unresolved, as Jake stood on the brink of an uncertain future, uncertain if they would prevail or fade into shadows forever. Jake's heart raced as the crowd hung on his words, their expressions a mix of disbelief and eager anticipation. He felt the weight of their gazes, like a spotlight revealing the truth in the dark. This was no longer just about him, it was about the town that had given him everything. It was about the laughter of children playing on the streets, the warmth of shared meals, and the stories that wove the community together. "Together, we can stand up to this," he declared, his voice steadying into a rallying cry. "We can show Brad Steele that Maplewood is not for sale." The words spilled from him, an unexpected surge of inspiration. People shifted, redefining their stance, igniting sparks of hope that rippled through the crowd like wildfire. Marlene, the owner of the local bakery, stepped forward, her hands trembling. "Jake's right. We can't let them take our home." Her voice cracked, but determination radiated from her eyes as she met Jake's fiery glance. "Exactly!" shouted Ben, who owned the small hardware store, his passion evident. "We all have something to lose. This community is our backbone." Shouts of agreement erupted, and a chorus of voices began to rise, swelling into a wave of unity. With each passing moment, Jake felt a growing warmth enveloping him, a sense that this might be the turning point they needed. Together, they created an unbreakable bond, something powerful that Brad Steele would never understand. He was fueled by profit and greed, they were fueled by love for their town and each other, but doubt lingered like a stubborn shadow. What if his courage only led to a greater threat from Steele? Jake's mind raced, and anxiety crept in. For the first time, he wondered if he'd unleashed a beast he couldn't control. His knees wobbled slightly, but he steeled himself, pushing those dark thoughts aside. They needed him now more than ever. "All we need is a plan," Jake urged, pacing the front, feeling the energy pulsate through the air like electricity. "We'll hold a rally. We'll get the media involved. We'll tell our stories, so everyone knows what's happening here." Nods and murmurs of agreement spread through the crowd. Jake could see it, the glimmer of hope transforming into a fire in their hearts. He imagined the town square filled with people, armed with banners, sharing their story loud and clear. They would reclaim their narrative, reminding everyone that Maplewood was a community of dreams, not commodities. As the meeting started to wind down, Jake glanced at the faces surrounding him. There was Marlene, her usual demure demeanor replaced by fierce resolve. Ben's brows were furrowed, a spark of vitality emanating from him. Even the most reserved attendees were transforming, hope igniting a sense of duty. "Let us spread the word," he encouraged everyone. "Let us make sure we're ready for the fight of our lives." The energy in the room crackled. Among the shouts of support, Jake felt a profound connection with those he had grown up with, the parents, the children, and those whose lives had intersected with his in this melting pot of aspirations. But just then, a voice sliced through the crowd, chilling the air like winter's breath. It was Brad Steele, stepping forward with an arrogant grin plastered across his face. "You really think this will stop me?" he sneered, his presence an unwelcome wave crashing against their fragile resolve. Jake's stomach twisted, dread flooding through him. Was this where their renewed hope would be crushed? As the air turned electric and tension mounted, a single gripping question echoed in Jake's mind: how far was he willing to go to protect everything he held dear? And with that, he faced the mogul head-on, determined to refuse defeat. But was he prepared for the oncoming storm? The crowd fell into a hushed murmur, the atmosphere thick with uncertainty. Brad Steele leaned closer, his smirk dripping with arrogance, as he scanned the sea of anxious faces. It felt like a challenge, one that hummed through Jake's veins and stirred the defiance buried deep within him. "You think your little rally will deter me?" Steele's voice dripped with condescension. "Maplewood's worth a lot more than sentimental stories. I have the financial might to crush this little uprising before it even begins." In that moment, Jake felt a wave of anger well up, battling against the paralyzing hold of fear. He stood up straighter, the air around him charged with a newfound energy. "You may have resources, Steele, but you're mistaken if you think you own this town. You're just a trespasser in our hearts." The crowd erupted, and cheers filled the air, drowning out Steele's scoffing laughter. Jake's resolve twisted tighter. He needed to channel this energy, harness it into something that could shift their trajectory. As he firmed his stance, he felt the support of those around him, a bulwark against the tide of dread and intimidation. "You want our land? First, you have to break us," Marlene shouted, a fiery spark igniting in her eyes. Her presence, once timid, now formidable, encouraged others to echo her sentiment. "We won T back down. Ben added, his voice filled with conviction. Jake marveled at the transformation in his neighbors. It struck him hard. This was more than a battle for their homes, it was a fight for their identity, for the laughter and community that defined their lives, but even with their spirits rising, dread still gnawed at Jake's gut. He could sense that Steele wasn't a man to back off easily. There would be repercussions. A deep breath steadied him, he could think of the risks later. Right now, they needed him to be strong. Let us not just rally, let us take it further. We'll set up a community meeting. We'll invite everyone in Maplewood to share their stories and stake their claim. Let us show the world what we stand for. His suggestion prompted an uproar of excitement, as ideas bounced around like popcorn. People rallied together, forming small huddles, each one bubbling over with passionate discourse. Flyers, social media posts, town banners, discussions picked up steam, and for a moment, fear faded like a distant memory, but then, out of the corner of his eye, Jake noticed Steele's expression shift from amusement to a calculating gaze, an unsettling calm descending over him. Whatever was brewing beneath that surface made Jake cringe with an instinctual warning. Steele was formulating a counterstrike, and Jake would need to be ready. As the crowd embraced the surge of camaraderie, Jake's heart raced but with a different rhythm, the pulse of courageous determination. He couldn't let the newfound hope whisper away at the first sight of the storm. They would need a strategy, a stronghold against the impending threat. He glanced once more at Marlene and Ben, then shifted his eyes back to Steele, who was now observing intently, mouth tightening into a thin line. They were not just defending their town, they were firing the first shot in a war that had far-reaching consequences. Let us not forget, Jake said, raising his voice to reclaim the focus, we have something they can never buy or own. That's our love for each other and this town. But we need to act swiftly. As Jake outlined the steps for the upcoming meeting, he felt the crowd close around him, engulfing him in collective purpose. But even as hope throbbed in the air, dread was nestled right alongside it. What if their effort fell flat? What if Steele retaliated harder than they anticipated? Before he finished, something in Jake's gut tugged at him, a dawning realization that each step they took forward was a step closer to awakening a deeper danger. The storm wasn't a question of if, it was just a matter of when. And as he stepped back, his heart racing once more, he knew everything hinged on the meeting they had planned. It could be their lifeline or their downfall. Could hope endure when faced with the wrath of greed? Tomorrow's rally would determine everything. Would they find the strength to withstand it? The sun was just a smudge of color on the horizon when Jake arrived at the community center the next morning. His heart raced as he pushed open the heavy door, the faint sound of chatter spilling into the hallway. The smell of coffee mixed with the familiar scent of old wood and polished floors wrapped around him, bringing a wave of both comfort and anxiety. This wasn't just another meeting, this was their stand, their beacon of hope in the face of a looming threat. As he stepped inside, he was greeted by the sight of familiar faces, neighbors he had grown up with, each one displaying a mix of anticipation and quiet determination. Marlene was already there, arranging chairs in neat rows, a focused look on her face that made him filled with respect. She caught his eye and gave a quick thumbs up, her vibrant spirit fueling his own. Jake! We've got some great stories lined up. Ben exclaimed, waving him over. Ben was setting up a projector, his usual easy smile now punctuated by a seriousness that reflected the gravity of the situation. Thanks for all the work, guys, Jake said, clapping Ben on the shoulder. This is it, we have to make our voices heard. Minutes ticked by, and one by one, people filtered in. Old and young, they all carried the weight of Maplewood in their eyes. There was Janet with her knitting needles, Mark with his children clinging to his legs, and even Mrs. Pelton, who had been the heart of the town since they were kids. Each person represented a piece of the vibrant mosaic that was Maplewood. Eventually, the room was buzzing with an energy Jake hadn't felt in ages. Neighbors clustered together, sharing anecdotes and ideas, their faces lit by hopes of solidarity and determination. This was the heart of their community laid bare, and it felt revolutionary. The meeting kicked off with Jake at the helm. He shared his vision, his passion igniting the room. "We're here today not just because of steel, but because we believe in each other and this town. We're going to share our stories and create a narrative that's impossible to ignore." Cheers echoed in the hall. Each voice added to the chorus, a powerful reminder of the life that pulsed through their small town. Marlene stood up next, providing a touching recollection of how her mother had sacrificed for their community. The room listened, rapt, as she connected every thread of memory to current struggles. By the end of her talk, a few in the audience had tears glistening in their eyes. As each person took their turn, the atmosphere transformed from somber to spirited. They spoke about hard times, resilience, and moments of joy, how Maplewood had been a refuge in storms, a place of connection that held them together. Their shared memories added weight to the air, thickening it with unyielding spirit, but just as the room was building momentum, the door swung open, and all eyes turned to Steele as he strolled in casually, a smirk plastered across his face. Behind him, a few of his corporate cohorts followed, their presence starkly out of place among the warmth of the gathered townsfolk. A palpable tension surged, an undercurrent of fear threading through the hopeful atmosphere. Steele's voice cut through the silence. "What a lovely gathering, folks. But let us not forget who really makes the decisions," he sneered, his gaze shifting from one face to another with a deliberate chill. Feeling the shift, Jake's heart thudded hard against his ribs. It was a taunt, a calculated maneuver to unsettle them. But wasn't that what they had been preparing for? "Let us show him what we're made of," Jake mumbled to himself, digging deep for strength. Realizing this was their moment to confront him, he stepped forward, ready to wrestle back control of the narrative, ready to fight for Maplewood. "If you think for one second that you can intimidate us, you're sorely mistaken," he shouted, his voice rising above the din. The crowd rallied behind him, a surge of solidarity rising like a wave ready to crash against any obstacle. And in that split second, Jake felt the weight of the moment. The choice before them was clear. Would they confront the greed of a man who wanted their soul, or would they rise, unbroken, igniting something larger than themselves? As tension thickened, Jake knew this was only the beginning. They couldn't back down now. The real battle was just unfolding, and the stakes were higher than ever. What would happen next? Would they stand united against the storm? A hush fell over the room, thick and heavy, as Jake squared his shoulders and faced Steele. The comfort of familiarity slipped away, replaced by a fierce determination. The noise of the gathering faded, leaving just the moment hanging taut in the air. He could see the uncertainty in some faces, but the overwhelming response was unwavering resolve. Maplewood would not be cowed. "We are not afraid of you," Jake called out, his voice steady, cutting through the tension. "What you see as a weakness in us is our strength. We are not just a town, we are a family." A ripple of murmurs traveled through the crowd, igniting whispers of agreement. He spotted Marlene nodding vigorously, and Ben's fist clenched in solidarity. It was as if the entire room was drawing a breath, a collective exhalation of courage. Jake locked eyes with Steele, the sneer on his face wavering as uncertainty flickered across his eyes. "Family?" Steele scoffed, crossing his arms. "That's cute, but it won't save your precious community. I have resources, and I will run this place however I see fit." The anger in Jake surged, and he stepped closer. "You think we'll let you bulldoze our home for profit? You might have money, but we have heart. You underestimate what this community stands for." With each word, Jake watched as the townsfolk began to rise from their seats, an incredible sight. They gathered together, forming a barrier against the impostor who would dare diminish their shared history. A chorus of voices joined Jake's in a cacophony of powerful declarations. "Maplewood. This is our home. Not without a fight." He could feel the rhythm of their hearts synchronizing, a pulse that resonated with the very fabric of their lives, their struggles, and their triumphs. Steele shifted nervously, the bravado losing its strength under the scrutiny of passionate eyes. His rehearsed lines flickered like a flame struggling against the wind. "You really think this will stop me?" he asked, though his bravado cracked, revealing a hint of doubt. A bold voice from the back called out, "This is our story, not yours." It was Janet, her knitting needles held defiantly as if they were an emblem of their shared history. Jake's pulse quickened, each word a spark igniting a fire within him. "He is afraid of us because we believe. We believe in one another, in the lives we've built together. We will resist him together." The energy in the room swirled, like a storm gaining momentum. Jake could sense the wind of change at their backs, urging them forward. They were a sea of faces, weathered and worn, but fierce with the conviction that made Maplewood home. Steele's confident facade finally cracked, and his eyes darted around the room, searching for any sign of fractures in their bond. "You think this is a game?" he asked, sounding more desperate than defensive now. "It's not a game," Jake shouted, emboldened by the people around him. "This is our life. We will fight for every moment that makes Maplewood ours." Quiet moments of reflection danced amongst the crowd as many processed the gravity of their choice. This was their moment. A fierce clarity rose within Jake's heart, each beat echoing through the energy engulfing the room. Together, they were invincible. As the crowd roared their collective affirmation, Jake felt his heart swell. The weight of the moment was both exhilarating and terrifying. Would they be able to hold their ground? Could they really fight against something so menacing? Steele stumbled back, retreating as the energy shifted against him. If they stood united, there was no way he could impose his will on them, but just then, one of Steele's cohorts whispered something, making Steele's eyes widen in realization, fear flooding back into the room like an unwelcome visitor. A flicker of doubt crossed his face, but then his lips curled into a sneer once more. "Let us see how long that spirit lasts," he responded, his voice low, dark, filled with menace that sent shivers through the crowd. Jake stared back at him, resolute. "Then let the fight begin." And with those words, the door closed tight on the past, just as a brand new chapter in Maplewood's history was about to be written. What would it take to hold the line? When would courage turn into action? The battle might have begun, but the outcome remained unwritten. The atmosphere in the room crackled with energy, each heartbeat echoing the collective resolve of Maplewood's residents. Faces previously masked with uncertainty now shone with the fierce light of commitment. Jake could see some of the older folks clutching their loved ones, their hands trembling. But it wasn't fear, it was the fire of battle ignited in their hearts, the stirrings of a once proud spirit now roaring back to life. Steele's laugh reverberated off the walls, a hollow sound that carried no warmth. "You really think a bunch of sentimental fools can stand against real power? You're living in a dream." He thrived on their emotions, feeding off the tension. Jake knew he had to rise above, to be the shield that defended everything they cherished. "We don't need to be powerful like you," Jake shouted, his voice unwavering. "We just need each other. Our spirit is stronger than your money, and it's time you understand that." Around him, the town erupted again. "Take back our Maplewood!" someone shouted, and the air filled with a vibrant hum as more voices joined in, calling for unity. Each person was a thread in the fabric, weaving something beautiful that no one could tear apart. He caught Marlene's eye, the firelight glinting off her glasses as she grinned at him, pride radiating from every pore. Behind her, he spotted Ben motioning for more friends to join them. People were standing up, finding their strength. This was more than a fight, it was a declaration that they existed and mattered. For a moment, Jake let the cheers wash over him, a tide of hope. But he could see Steele's unease mounting. His smirk wobbled, now barely able to hide the flicker of panic. Jake's heart raced. What was Steele planning? He had to be careful, to stay one step ahead of this adversary who had underestimated them all. "In a few days, this will all be over," Steele said, his voice dripping with false confidence. "You'll be begging me to let you keep your homes." He spread his arms wide, as if trying to frame Maplewood's existence in his palms. "Not if we can help it." Janet shouted again, her voice ringing like a bell. Yeah, echoed others. Not a chance. With each declaration, the collective determination surged through Jake like a jolt of electricity. They were ready to confront whatever Steele had in store. They had come too far to back down now. But what would happen next? Steele had resources, yes, but did he have the heart of this town? Would he push them too far, or would they curb his ambition? Then, just as Jake drew another breath, the door opened unexpectedly. A man dressed in a crisp suit stepped in, one of Steele's associates, frazzled and clearly anxious. Jake's eyes narrowed. What could he possibly want now? Mr. Steele. The man called, raising his hands, trying to appease the growing crowd. We need to talk. There's been an unexpected development. Steele's eyes narrowed. This could be the moment things changed. Suddenly, the tension shifted, and Jake felt the room hold its breath, waiting for the storm to break or the dawn to rise. What unexpected development? Jake called out, the challenge ringing clear through the silence. Could this be the crucial turning point that might shift the battle in their favor? As anticipation gripped the air thickly, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to discover something that could change everything. The room remained eerily still as all eyes turned to Steele's associate, the weight of the moment palpable. Jake could feel the tension tighten like a drawn bowstring, everyone anticipating clarity or chaos. The young man stood nervously, glancing back at Steele, whose face had transformed into a mask of irritation and curiosity. It's about the land, he stuttered, his hands quaking. There's been a legal complication. An asset we thought was fully under control is, well, it's not. Jake felt a spark of hope flicker in his chest. Could this be the chink in Steele's armor? A crack in the wall of his confidence that they could exploit? What do you mean? Steele demanded, his voice sharp as a knife. The arrogance that had dominated his demeanor began to falter, replaced by something darker. Speak clearly. This is no time for riddles. The associate straightened up, trying to regain his composure. There's a mortgage document, one that was filed prior to the current acquisition. It wasn't just overlooked, it's a major flaw in our position. The previous owners were protected under state law, and they might still hold rights. There's a lawsuit pending. Gasps rippled through the gathered townspeople, turning their murmurs into a swell of hopeful excitement. Jake could hardly contain his enthusiasm. Could this be the chance they had been waiting for? That's it? Your real power is unraveling over an oversight? Jake's laugh rang out, infectious and echoing through the room, igniting the crowd's spirits again. We can fight this. Maplewood won't give up its heart without a fight. Silence. Steele roared, his voice reverberating with fury. The entertaining mask he wore cracked, revealing the chilling intensity beneath. You think this chance will save you? You're still a bunch of nobodies standing in the way of something much bigger than you can understand. Jake stepped forward, heart pounding but steady. You underestimate us. We won't be intimidated anymore. We have each other and that's enough. The townspeople rallied behind him, voices rising in unison, filling the room with a defiant chant. Maplewood. Maplewood. They were emboldened, ready to seize the moment. Jake felt the heat of their collective fervor surge through him, a potent reminder that their strength lay in unity, but Steele's anger morphed into cold calculation. This is merely a delay, he sneered, smirking as if crafting a strategy of his own. I will deal with this, and you will lose everything. You have no idea who you're dealing with. The air shifted again, tension thick like fog. This small crack in Steele's facade could shift the whole tide, yet Jake sensed a looming dread. Despite the window of opportunity before them, would Steele retaliate in a way that would deepen their struggles perhaps beyond what they could bear? Don't let your spirits waver. This is only the beginning. Jake shouted, determination flaring in his chest, a fire forged from the bonds of love and commitment he held for his town. As the crowd erupted once more, something shifted in Jake's gut. He knew they needed to act fast. They couldn't wait for Steele to regroup and counter. They needed a plan, a strategy capable of harnessing their collective fervor and turning it into action. Let us gather and talk. We can hit back and push for what's ours, he urged, lifting his arms, rallying the energy in the room. But a voice whispered in his mind, a warning echoing like a distant bell. Would their newfound hope be enough to face whatever wrath Steele would unleash? In that very moment, just as the collective excitement built to a crescendo, the door burst open again. A figure stepped in, breathless and wild-eyed. Everyone turned to face the new arrival, and Jake felt a surge of anxiety. Who was this? And what news could shake their newfound resolve? "Jake, you need to hear this, it's about Steele," the stranger gasped. "It'll change everything." The room fell silent, all eyes glued to the newcomer. Jake could feel the tension knot tighter in his throat as he waited for the stranger to collect himself. The man's wild hair fell haphazardly over his forehead, and his clothes were slightly disheveled. There was something frantic in his demeanor, and that ignited Jake's unease. "Who are you?" Jake managed, his voice cutting through the palpable air. "Derek," the man replied breathlessly, "I work in the city. I stumbled upon something in the archives while researching Steele's company, and what I found changes everything." He scanned the crowd, seeing eyes filled with curiosity and desperation. "What did you discover?" Jake pressed, his heart racing. "There's more to that mortgage document. It's not just a standard claim. Steele isn't just in danger of losing the property, he's been involved in some questionable activities behind the scenes. This lawsuit, it's tied to something much darker, something he's been trying to keep hidden." A murmur swept through the crowd, a surge of disbelief mixed with curiosity. Derek took a deep breath, trying to steady himself before continuing. "If we can go public with this information, we can not only stop him but turn the power back over to Maplewood. The community deserves to know." Jake's mind raced. "What kind of activities? Can you prove it?" "I've got documents," Derek replied, his voice steadying. "Things Steele was trying to bury, a web of lies about property deeds, bribes, and mismanagement. His empire could crumble like a house of cards if we play this right." Hope blossomed in Jake's chest, but doubt lingered. And what if Steele catches wind of this? He won't just step aside. He has resources, connections. He can fight back harder than we can. "Then we have to move fast," Derek insisted, urgency in his voice. "We put the pressure on him before he even knows what hit him. The townspeople need to stand united. Your rallying cry, the hope that's been ignited, that's our greatest strength." The weight of his words resonated deep within Jake. He glanced around at the faces of his neighbors, fellow townspeople who had stood by him through thick and thin. There was a fire in their eyes, and they were ready not just to fight for their land but for their home, their lives. "Let us act." Jake raised his voice, channeling the energy of the moment. "We'll take this fight to Steele. We expose him for who he really is. We can't let fear hold us back any longer." Maplewood. The crowd roared, the walls vibrating with their voices, every syllable a declaration of their intent, but amidst the excitement, a chill ran through Jake. As they prepared to gather the information Derek had uncovered, what if it wasn't enough? What if Steele had a way to strike back before they could act? As the townspeople began to talk strategy, Jake leaned in closer to Derek, urgency cracking his facade of calm. "What if he has a plan? We need more than just documents. We need an ally inside his circle." "Then we'll have to find one," Derek replied, determination etched in his features. "But let us ensure they know we're coming. We won't back down." With that resolution hanging in the air, the crowd's energy shifted from fierce camaraderie to a quiet resolve. They had a secret in hand, a chance to alter their fates, but at what cost? Just as the crowd began to disperse for the night, another voice broke the murmurs, calling from the back. A figure emerged, eyes wide with urgency. Wait! You don't know the half of it. Steel has a powerful ally. Someone who can turn this fight into a bloodbath. You won't believe who it is. Jake's stomach dropped. What had they truly gotten themselves into? The voice echoed in the room, and a hush fell over the crowd, every ear straining to hear more. Jake's heart raced as he turned toward the figure emerging from the shadows. It was an old friend, Sarah, someone who had always been a beacon of light in dark times. Who is it, Sarah? Jake asked, his mind spinning. The room was tense, anticipation crackling in the air. She took a moment, seemingly weighing the impact of her words before continuing. It's Michael. He used to work for Steel. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Michael had been a trusted employee, a smart man who had always played his cards close to his chest. I thought he left the company, someone murmured, disbelief mingling with fear. He did, Sarah confirmed, her voice steady. But he didn't leave voluntarily. He found out too much and tried to whistleblow. Steel threatened him, and now, I fear he might come after any of us who try to stop him. Jake felt the weight of her words settle over him like a heavy fog. They had known about Steel's ruthlessness, but this brought a new level of danger. What can Michael offer us? Does he still have information? Yes, Sarah replied, her eyes darting around the gathered crowd. He has inside knowledge, everything from Steel's dealings to his power plays. If we can get to him, if he is willing to help, he could be our biggest ally. Jake's mind raced. It sounded risky, but the thought of having Michael's insight could turn the tide in their favor. So how do we reach him? He asked, determination seeping back into his bones. I have a way to contact him, Sarah said, her voice firm. But we have to be careful. If Steel has eyes on us, it could end badly for him and for us. Derek, who had been listening intently, stepped forward, cutting through the tension. We have to act quickly. If we wait too long, Michael might slip out of reach again. We need a plan to protect him while he helps us. The urgency in the room intensified. The townsfolk began whispering strategies, ideas bouncing from person to person like a live wire. They were moving, finally unified by the same goal, to take down Steel. But with each suggestion, Jake felt another shiver of anxiety. What if we can't protect Michael? Jake interjected, passion rising in him. What if Steel finds out we're trying to help him? We need to ensure that whatever we do, it's safe for us all. True, but if we don't act, Steel wins by default, Derek replied, his voice steady despite the storm brewing around them. We can't lose sight of that. Our families, our homes, everything is at stake. As the discussions turned into plans, a wave of emotions washed over Jake, hope, fear, solidarity. He realized this was more than just a battle against a corrupt man, it was a fight for their future, their community, but as they rallied together, a question lingered in Jake's mind. How much danger were they truly stepping into? Was their fight just beginning, or were they already deep within Steel's grasp, treading dangerously close to a point of no return? The conversation buzzed around him, but his thoughts remained fixed on the lurking shadows, aware that time was against them. And now, with Michael's potential involvement, the stakes were higher than ever. Would they manage to secure his trust, or would their plans unravel before they even had a chance to begin? The crowd's excitement was intoxicating, but one thing was certain, the next move could change everything. The rally day dawned bright and clear, yet an undercurrent of tension threaded through Maplewood. Jake stood on the familiar town square, heart pounding as the vibrant community filled the space. Familiar faces radiated hope, their expressions reflecting a blend of excitement and anxiety. He felt the weight of anticipation, electric with the possibility that today could redefine their fate. That he took a deep breath, scanning the crowd, feeling the energy pulse in the air. This was it. Together, they would expose Brad Steele's greed. Together, they would reclaim their lives. Maplewood! He shouted, stepping onto the makeshift platform. Today, we show the world who we are. Cheers erupted like a roaring wave, lifting him higher, fortifying his resolve. From the corner of his eye, he caught Marlene's encouraging nod, her unwavering spirit igniting something deep within him. Jake raised his hand for silence, his heart racing in rhythm with the vibrant chatter. Today is about more than just stopping a corporation, it's about our families, our history, our love for this town. We stand together. The energy surged as voices rose in a powerful chorus. Together! They shouted, echoing back to him. Each declaration resonated, wrapping around Jake like a warm embrace. But just as hope soared, another voice slithered in, cold and sharp. It was Steele, flanked by his corporate allies, stepping into view like a storm cloud threatening to eclipse their sun. You think you can defy me? Pathetic. His derisive laughter bounced off the buildings, chilling the air. A few in the crowd flinched, uncertainty creeping in like a shadow. You may have numbers, Steele sneered, striding forward with arrogance, but numbers don't hold power. I control the resources. You think this rally will shield you? This was the moment Jake had prepared for. Fear momentarily gripped him, but took root with something stronger. He stepped forward, matching Steele's gaze with unyielding determination. You don't own us. You don't own Maplewood. His voice rang clear, stripping away the facade Steele had built around himself. The crowd erupted in agreement, voices intertwining in a chorus of defiance. Suddenly, his words became amplified, an unstoppable force intertwining with the collective heart and soul of the town. But Steele wasn't finished. Do you really think you can win this? I have connections. I can bury you and your dreams, one way or another. Jake's heart thudded, weighing the gravity of each threat. But deep down was certainty, love for his home, for the people within it, eclipsed by the dark threats of greed. We'll stand united, no matter the cost. His declaration pierced the air, drawing more shouts of support. Maplewood! The chorus came back, louder, fueled by a tide of unity. As the rally escalated, the townspeople shared their stories, their fears, their hopes. Each tale, heartfelt and authentic, echoed in the air like an anthem. It wasn't just about resistance, it was a celebration of everything they cherished. An elderly man spoke, recounting how their diner had fed generations. A young mother followed, detailing the laughter and love shared at community events. Each story blossomed into a ripple effect, hope swirled with memories, forming an unshakable bond. With each revelation, the crowd swelled stronger, and Jake's heart raced. This was the fire that would combat greed. But just then, a commotion at the edge of the crowd caught his attention. It was Sarah, breathless with urgency. Jake! We found Michael. The crowd quieted, whispers of confusion threading through them like a whisper of wind. Sarah ushered Michael forward, and every gaze locked onto him. He looked weary but resolute, confidence simmering beneath the surface. Michael! Jake called, his heart racing. Are you willing to help us expose Steele? Michael shifted, his eyes searching the crowd. Yes. I've gathered evidence, everything I could find tied to Steele's dealings. I know how he operates, and Maplewood deserves to know the truth. A cheer erupted, the room pulsing with hope. This was it. With Michael's inside knowledge, they had a chance to turn the tide. Together, Jake proclaimed, we'll file a lawsuit of our own. We have proof of his misdeeds. He may have power, but he doesn't have heart. As they formed a plan to rally support, Jake felt a sense of victory blossoming. The fight was no longer a solitary battle, this was their moment. Together, they could create a wave that swept away Steele's greed and restored Maplewood's spirit, and as the sun dipped low on the horizon, illuminating them in its golden glow, Jake realized this had never only been about land or money. It was about legacy, love, and the sheer power of community. The sweet smell of fried chicken wafting in the air mingled with tears of joy and hope filling the hearts of Maplewood. Together, they would not lie down, together, they would rise. With resolve hardening in his chest, Jake looked around at the unwavering faces surrounding him. They were more than a community, they were a family. And today, in the face of adversity, they would win back their story. As they clutched hands, a powerful chant filled the air, echoing far beyond the square. Maplewood. Maplewood. We will fight for our home. The battle for their dreams had begun, but with the strength of unity coursing through them, Jake felt an overwhelming surge of confidence. They would fight, they would stand tall, and they would write a future filled with hope. Now, it's time to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is your moment to show support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, believe me, it really helps. Comment your thoughts on this ending. I want to know how you felt. And finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the power of supporting this channel through these actions.